steps towards growth and sustainability. And this last year, it's mostly been around helping people and groups work on their virtual presence and how they're going to be online. But I've been coming on live and just every once in a while sharing some thoughts I have about a specific topic. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about science and certainty. I was listening to a podcast by a guy named Mike Rowe called The Way I Heard It. And he was talking about how he was off by roughly 2 trillion. He was doing a voiceover for a science program, and he was called back in to redo part of a section where they said, you know what, the numbers we gave you were wrong. So you need to redo this as the number of stars in the universe because we've increased our number by over 2 trillion. And this is NASA giving him the data. And then he was riffing on the idea of how certain he sounded. Every take he gave, regardless of the data, he sounded so certain. And the thing that took it even a step further is that a few weeks later, he was called back in to correct it again, back down a couple trillion. And it got me thinking about the nature of science and how certain scientists sound, mostly in sound bites, because they're only given a few seconds to relay really complex information. And oftentimes we will criticize the experts because they changed their information. But that's the nature of science. I've got a degree in biology, and that was a long time ago. But what I learned when I was studying biology, which gave us the philosophy of science, gave me the philosophy of science, is that the whole idea in doing experimentation is to disprove your hypothesis. It's called the null hypothesis. You want to state it in such a way that you design your experiment to basically challenge your assumptions. The idea of your certainty in your hypothesis is what the experiment is supposed to crush. And then if it supports your hypothesis, you've just got some really important data. And if it doesn't support your hypothesis, then you go back and reformulate. That's the nature of science. It's the idea that you can't be certain. You think back just over the last 100 years, how medicine has changed, the different assumptions about what's possible in medicine, let alone just the changes in our understanding of space. You know, before Einstein, they were pretty sure they had all of physics figured out. And then everybody had to change the way they thought because Einstein came up with these ideas. And there were no way to test those when he was doing his thought experiments. But now in the last 100 years, since Einstein came up with his theory of general relativity, a lot of the things he tested turned out to be accurate, and it's still changing. I go back to medicine, and I have an artificial knee, and I think back to even since I've known that I've had to get an artificial knee, which was years ago. They said, my surgeon said, okay, hold out as long as you can because the artificial knees only last so long and you can only have so many replacements. And back then they said 10 years max. And now they're pushing 20 years as far as how long an artificial knee will last. So our understanding changes because science challenges itself. They really push back on confirmation bias, meaning that don't look for the things that support your perspective. Look for the things that will challenge your perspective. And for me, in our time in the last year with COVID, and what about masks? What about vaccines? And we look at our experts and we're learning. We knew very little about the coronavirus a year ago. And so they were trying to keep us as safe as possible. Usually it's by overstating and over-engineering. You think about the first time you build something, you want to make sure that it's going to be strong. Well, the first time you try and treat something, you want to make sure that you're going to get it right. Well, and the thing is, mistakes, they were made because we didn't understand. But every time we tried something, we learned. And so changing your mind based on new data is what science is all about. So if you're following the science, you're following the changes. And I'd love to hear, so if what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and comment here on following the science. And if you're interested, you can. I'm playing with my new tool. You like and share this. Have some fun with it. And I'd love to hear back from you. Again, I'm John Losey, IntoWisdom Group. If you need thoughts on how you can grow and take your next best step forward, reach out. I'd love to talk to you. Have a great day.